This month in True West Magazine, we tried something completely different. We have never had a female artist on the cover, and this month we did just that. That is not just any artist, that is Donna Howell Sickles, and we interviewed her, and I'd like you to watch it right now. All right, we're here talking to Donna Howell Sickles, and I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of history in this area, and your great uncle helped found this town, but was he really a saint? Is that how we get to Saint Joe? Tell me that story.
Okay. No, apparently he was not a saint. Most of the men who came together and helped form this town had issues with alcohol. When they were renaming the town on the early surveyors' maps, it was called St. Dominic Spring, and then they renamed it Head of Elm because of the big stream, the big springs outside of town. They were trying to come up with a new name, and at this particular time, Joe was still on the wagon, so Irby Bogus said, well, hell, Joe, you're such a saint, let's just name it after you. So for a few years it was St. Joe, J-O-E, and then they dropped the E.
Oh, do we know why they dropped the E?
Something about the post office, I'm not sure what.
And speaking of that, you could live anywhere now that you wanted to, and why St. Joe?
We fell in love with the area and the way it looks and the way it feels, and we've made we have all these wonderful projects that we're involved in, and the people we've made, the best friends we've had, gosh, probably since we were both in college. So it's just it's been an area that, you know, on a 106-degree day I wonder why, but I do love it.
Now, speaking of your friends, I talked to Dee Brown, one of your best friends, and her and all the women in this county want to know, how did you end up with such a good husband?
That was just luck. My cousin introduced us. Maybe that helped.
Is that right? And you've been married for over 30 years.
Yeah.
The secret is being married?
I don't know. I think that marriage is like artwork. It's a work in progress.
Very well put. You can go to politics. And speaking of art, you have such great line work, and it shows even in your finished product. You can see the lines that are alive. Tell us a little bit about your process of drawing and how you learned to draw like that.
I think that you come with a bag of talents, and I really do think drawing is something that I already was strong when I started. It's something that comes freely, and it's something I love doing. My favorite part of every piece is the line work, the drawing. And I think that it kind of has an active energy, and when I see one of my finished pieces, it's always a struggle when you do the drawing to keep that kind of fresh energy all the way through the color. And typically when I look at other people's work, it's their sketches for their pieces I like better than the finished product, because it becomes a little too static for me. So I love the movement in the piece, and the linear work always accentuates that. And it's oh gosh, there's nothing like a good line.
The other thing that strikes me about your work is you're really into mythology. In fact, I think did you major in mythology?
I didn't. I just
but you're very much into it, Joseph Campbell and that kind of thing. And you talk a little bit about the symbols that you use. Tell us about the symbols that are in your paintings and what they mean.
Well, okay. You know, you can come up with symbology for almost anything if you have a creative mind and have that kind of vocabulary. But I really started realizing that the American West uses the same, I'll start this sentence over. I realized at one point in time, most of the mythology that we're familiar with originated in an agrarian, rural society. So they're dealing with the same things that the American West is still dealing with. You have the same animals, the same domesticated animals. You have the same dependence on fate, luck, and weather. You have the same feeling of being alone out there. And needing something to intervene between you and your concept of God. So taking those stories and using those animals and using the bull as a stand-in for the male creative force of our planet makes perfect sense in a Western context, as it did in a very early agrarian context. So that part's kind of fun, to take all of those things that we deal with now and to give them the credit they're due, so to speak. And you know, the West as a whole has a slightly heroic flair. And the people who perceive the West, I mean, the West has been marketed as dramatic since the very beginning, and there's something about, you know, man against nature, man against that huge expanse of where we live, the wind and all of those sorts of things, that just makes all of these other mythic elements not feel like it's a stretch or an add-on. I mean,
One last question. You've been using targets in some of your recent paintings.
yes.
And do you feel like you've become a target with your success? Is there some autobiographical element to the target?
I think that's probably what started it, and you know, the context wasn't that great. I just realized that there's no way you cannot be one. If you live your life well, any of you, and there's so many things about all of us that could be made into a target. Your beauty, sometimes just innately who you are, your success, your religion, your knowledge, just about anything you do well, that you attain something that someone else notices, could make you a target. And I decided that maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe you just live your life realizing that you're running in front of a series of targets, and you can just laugh the whole time.
You laugh well, thank you.
Thanks.